So we're starting a new series today. And a couple of weeks ago, I was able to attend a talk at the Institute by the film director, Werner Herzog. And the subject was ecstatic truth. So ecstatic is always an interesting word. Ek, meaning outside, and histani, which means a place or to cause to stand. So histani, ecstasy, is to be outside one's senses. And ecstatic truth, which Herzog says, he says it's a deeper and more profound truth that can be achieved by going beyond the mere presentation of facts. He's not talking about alternative facts here. He's talking about using stylization and imagination, even fabrication, to evoke a powerful emotion or a philosophical resonance in the viewer. So he'll take a documentary and he'll actually add things to it to create a heightened sense of truth in it. And Herzog believes that accountant's truth, which he calls factual accuracy, is often superficial and doesn't necessarily lead to a deeper understanding. He argues that facts don't always illuminate the human experience. And to reach ecstatic truth, what he does is he takes a stylization and a fabrication, and he thinks by reshaping reality, he can create a more impactful and sort of truthful experience for his audience. And the goal, as I said, is to create a deeper emotional and philosophical connection between the audience and the film subject matter, so they can have a more profound truth in the human condition. It just resonated completely with me. And it got me thinking as to how we might express ecstatic truth in our own lives. And I was wondering whether or not we could therefore become architects of truth. And in doing so, could we really as we become architects of truth, could we actually construct beauty as a way of revealing truth, a beautiful truth, in an attempt to communicate our experience? And this made me think about the relationship between truth and beauty. How, as we move towards trying to create an understanding of the nature of reality, we might use the idea of ecstatic truth or creating beauty to enable people to grasp a deeper understanding. So I thought there was a very interesting relationship between truth and beauty. And I thought that really all art is ecstatic truth. And the reason I got a service sheet so I can put down some of the little bits of art and things like that. Artists don't necessarily use an actual representation to realize the truth. And if you look at, I'm nervous looking at Julie, who's an art teacher. I've got various art teachers thinking, oh yeah, let me hear what you've got to say about this. But anyway, if you look at Van Gogh's wheat field, which is in the inside one, wheat field with crows, it doesn't show us an actual representation of the wheat field, but really an ecstatic truth or a heightened one. And Herzog's radical shift was to use that technique in documentaries, which are normally constrained to using just exactly what's so. But he uses actors and made things up just to heighten that sense of truth. And it got me thinking that the logical end point of this is where we create something, or something is created that is so beautiful that its truth becomes self-evident. Like, I put the picture of the Mona Lisa there, like making the Mona Lisa out of life, so that you can actually, like with the Mona Lisa, they always say you can see into her soul. And, we can actually see into the soul of what we're representing. And that really made me start to think about the relationship between truth and beauty, and that possibly beauty is the ultimate expression of truth. And therefore we're trying to, when we're trying to express truth, perhaps rather than simply looking at facts, we should be looking to create beauty, and through that beauty, express truth. And I wondered, that being said, how do we communicate the truth of the nature of reality, that divine truth? The difficulty is the Tao Te Ching says, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. If you're starting to talk about it, you're already, not telling the truth of what it is. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. And so that's why I wanted to do this series, to explore that, rather than trying, to persuade people, in sermons and pulpits, people who try to explain and persuade people of the truth. Could we become architects of beauty and try to construct something that leads people into truth? We're always trying to create ideas that enable people to understand the truth, but perhaps we can become architects of beauty and construct something so beautiful, as I said, that it points to the divine. I know that, when we have an experience of awakening, those of us have had that experience, that enlightenment experience, the overall impression is one of incredible beauty. And that has within it the realization of truth. And in this little series, I want to explore that relationship between truth and beauty and see if we can learn how we can use beauty and truth to live our lives more skillfully. Maybe, as I said, becoming architects of beauty. We might be able to create an understanding in ways that proof and facts might not be able to bring about. And might that change the way that we behave in life by using beauty to express and understand truth? Should we be focusing on beauty more rather than be much more linear? Plato believed that beauty was a reflection of truth. In his view, the most beautiful things were those that pointed to eternal forms, unchanging truths beyond the physical world. He spoke about cosmic values of truth, that which is reality, cosmic values of truth, which is that which is reality, of goodness, that which fulfills a purpose, and beauty, that which is lovely. He says those are objective in nature and knowable to the noble seeker. And John Keats, and I put that little picture on the front that John Keats drew, he famously wrote the poem Ode to a Greek Urn, and that's the Greek urn he drew when he was talking about it. It's got the famous line in it, beauty is truth. Truth is beauty. That is all ye know on earth and all ye need to know. And you can see the urn, as I said, that he was talking about. The last lines of the poem, when old age shall this generation waste, thou, the urn, shalt remain in midst of other woe that ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth is beauty, that is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know. It suggests that unity between the two, where emotional resonance and aesthetic experience reveals a deeper truth. Many scientists describe, and mathematicians describe theories as being beautiful. Einstein called the simplicity of relativity beautiful. And I just put that on the inside, his theory, because it revealed profound truths about the universe. That film about John Nash was called A Beautiful Mind. And in math, beauty often lies in symmetry, in simplicity, in unexpected connections, qualities that also signal truth. And in today's world, we often wrestle with whether something is too beautiful to be true. And sometimes it reveals our skepticism. If you look at the definitions of truth, truth comes from the word troeth, which means faithfulness, constancy. It's a quality, where something can be relied on. And beauty comes from the word bellos, meaning fine or beautiful. And it's said to be a combination of qualities of shape, colour and form that pleases the aesthetic senses, especially the sight. which suggests that beauty is something that is perceived by the senses. And so perhaps truth, just rather than being able just to be perceived by the mind, can also be perceived by the senses. Perhaps we might be able to see truth as we can see beauty, or hear truth in the way that we hear the beauty of music or poetry. In Enlightenment terms, they talk about the music of the spheres, which is where people get enlightened by hearing. And if this is so, perhaps we should be focusing on creating beauty to open people to the nature of reality rather than just trying to present information. I always think, this is probably talking up the competition here, but I always think that True Nature in Carbondale is such a beautiful place. And you walk in there, it's so beautiful. And it creates an understanding of the true nature of reality by the fact that it is. It communicates by what it is. I've always wanted the chapel to communicate in the same sort of way. And I think to some extent it does. When the art museum came here, they put on this big show, the art museum. And actually that's how I got to see Werner Herzog, because do you want to go and see anything else in our program? And I thought, this is all so obscure, I'm not going to want to see anything. I said, well, I'll have a look. Werner Herzog, I'm definitely going to see that. Anyway, when they came, they said that the light above this room gave the appearance of heaven being in this place, which I thought was a lovely thing to say. But I think that some of the design of the chapel is actually quite brutalist. And that means minimal construction, emphasizing the raw, exposed building materials, especially concrete and structural elements. I mean, Glenn put up, bless him, the Zen garden, which is out there now. And I think that is quite beautiful in the way it is. But I'd like to see, as we develop the chapel, more beauty here, so that when people walk in, like they walk into True Nature, you go, wow. And people do when you walk in and see the stained glass windows and stuff like that. And that we're always trying to present truth here. It's what religion, or at least spirituality, is about. Our definition of spirituality here, as I mentioned before, is spirituality is the cultivation of a sensitive and rewarding relationship with eternal truth and love. And I love that definition because it is both true and beautiful. The way it's expressed is beautiful. You say yes to the cultivation of a sensitive and rewarding relationship with eternal truth and love. And you can also say, what a beautiful idea. That mandala up there has ideas in it. It's got the Celtic knots up there, which represent the interconnectedness of eternity. The ideas of energies of the world are within that. There's the earthly globe and the movement within it. But the image is also beautiful. And there is an essential truth that's communicated just by its beauty. There's an argument which really, against all this, which says beauty is an aesthetic, while truth is philosophical. Beauty is an aesthetic concept, whereas truth is a philosophical one. Aestheticism, which emphasizes beauty and sensory experience over moral and political themes, and philosophy is a pursuit of understanding the fundamental nature of reality. But that's to miss the essential relationship, I think, between asceticism and philosophy. Because, of course, the word philosophy comes from philo, meaning love, and sophia, meaning wisdom. So philosophy is the love of wisdom, which is an incredible thing. It actually, love is giving with no expectation of return. So therefore, when we enter into philosophy, we enter into a moment of love. We love that wisdom. And, aesthetic comes from the Greek aesthekios, which means the perception of things. So I think there is no real conflict between the love of wisdom, where we go out and give ourselves, and the perception of things. What we're suggesting there is that the love of wisdom can be enhanced and derived from the perception of things. And really, that's what we're exploring. And I'm on the last page, which is beautiful. So those of you panicking can stop. So can our perception actually be a source of wisdom? Can our perception be a source of wisdom? Well, obviously on one level, but we can actually create wisdom. I'm suggesting, can we create wisdom and understanding? Can we do that? Create wisdom and understanding by creating beauty. That's what I'm really asking here. And that's where we come back to Herzog's idea of ecstatic truth, that by adding to the known, by what we understand, and by doing that in a way to create beauty, we actually provide a way of having truth be revealed. The perception of things feeding the love of wisdom. Because to love wisdom, we have to give ourselves to it. And in doing that, one of the things that we give is our perception. All of which leads me to thinking that what we should be doing here is not just presenting something that is true, but also presenting something that is beautiful and have the truth be revealed in beauty. It's all about the nature of emphasis. In my talk here, am I just coming up with ideas that hold together through their rationality? And through their rationality, they demonstrate truth. Or can I create something that is so beautiful that it reveals the truth through beauty? For me, this on the spiral dynamics level is the way we go from the rational to the visionary. And I put this on the back. Actually, I'm not on my last page. If you look at the back of the thing, spiral dynamics is about the nature of what stage of consciousness do we live in? There's infant stage. You can look at this. We can do a whole lecture on this, but I'm not going to go into it. Infant, magical, mythical. Now, it's interesting that going from rational to visionary, from rational consciousness, which is all the nuts and bolts of ideas, to visionary consciousness, which is Einstein, Shakespeare, and beyond simple thinking. It's interesting that the move from rational to visionary, and this shows a move from the realm of perception where beauty is found. We're going from just working out ideas to where beauty is found. And this suggests a move to a soul consciousness, a unity of consciousness. The deepest truth is perceived as well as understood by the mind. So the deepest truth is perceived. You get it in you, as well as being perceived by the mind. And if we're to be presenting that path into unity of consciousness, this is what we're trying to do here, which is at the center of what we're doing, then, how do we do that using beauty? How do we, I've always banging on, and I will continue, about the myth of separation. The fact that our world is the way it is because we think of ourselves as being separate. Wars, people fearing each other, people not cooperating, is because we experience ourselves as being separate, which is a complete fallacy. We are not separate. There is a unity to the world. There is a unity to the earth. There is a unity to nature. There is a unity to humanity that needs to be rediscovered and expressed in order for us to balance our world back again. So I think there is a great challenge to express that in terms of both beauty and in truth, to show that nature of unity of consciousness in a way that is beautiful, also as in a way as being true. I'm suggesting that relationship is what we should be exploring. And in the Bible, Paul says in his letter to Philippians, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is beautiful, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. There is a deep truth in that, which is beautiful. There's a deep truth in the Taj Mahal, in the pillars of creation. I put pictures of both those in the service sheet. And next week, I'm going to be talking about how we bring about that realization of beauty and realization of truth within beauty. see, I would describe that piece as achingly beautiful. And it just pulls at our hearts. What is pulling? There's something we recognize in that. There's something that our hearts yearn for that. And you've displayed it so beautifully. Such a perfect piece to play in. Thank you. So we always have an opportunity for people to disagree or share an experience or ask a question or anything. Just a bit of a conversation that actually moves what we're thinking about onwards and enables all of us to come together. I just wondered if anyone's got anything they'd like to say at all, just to respond to what we're talking about at the moment. Carol, great.
It made me think of when I was in high school, and I had an acquaintance, but not a great friend. And she said to me, she was telling me about a friend of hers. And she said, she's quite homely, but she has the most beautiful hands. And that struck me. I went, beauty isn't always forward. You have to look for it sometimes and be ready for it.
Yes. It reminds me of that song. Do you remember? I'm going to play, everything is beautiful in its own way as well. Yeah, absolutely right. I think it's lovely. Thank you. Anybody else like to? Yes, there we are. Stephen.
I see that you like to explore the relationship between words, how sometimes they mean the same thing and they're close together, and you're talking about perception today. And I was thinking, just perception, is in the eye of the beholder, but actually before I can perceive anything, I have to conceive it. So now there's a relationship between conceive and perceive. And when I conceive something, then I can perceive it, see it. I know it's there. So it just kind of brings me back to the power of the mind, and it's all a conception. So I don't know how that went over, but thank you.
No, I think that's true. I think you do have to conceive something before you perceive it. I never know whether it's true or not, but they did say that the original people, when Columbus appeared, couldn't see the ships because they couldn't conceive things that were possible. I mean, I never know whether that's true or not, but it speaks to your point that even in extreme, you have to conceive beauty before you actually, in a sense, perceive it on one level. You have to actually be open to the fact that could exist, or that level of understanding could exist. I think that's a well-made point. If you're going to speak again, you're going to need the microphone because no one can hear you. Do you want to say something? No? Okay, good. All right. Yes, Manoray.
I'm trying to be an artist. I love to paint, and I love to work with color. Sometimes I'm really into it, and sometimes I'm not. But when I am, I see the world in a whole different way.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Christina, and then Eric.
I really love this idea that you're expressing about conceiving something. This morning I was coaching my mom on how to join us today online because she's in Virginia. And she's 84, and she's with us. She's listening. But it struck me so beautifully now how you're forming this, because she was having a difficult time with the technology. And yes, we have to be able to conceive it, to almost believe in it, before we can actually wrestle with it, play with it, create it. Oops, sorry. So I just thought that was really interesting how I could conceive it, I could see it, but for her it's so brand new that she was struggling to see it. And now I can have so much more patience and love and understanding for her. And then one more thing I wanted to add, when you were talking about beauty and the depth of that, and you were saying, like, what can we bring to, all I could think of was my chocolate lab is sitting in the car, and my dog, and everything about him, for me personally, is exactly what you're talking about. His grace, his presence, his curiosity, his joy of every little thing he notices. He's always in the present moment. And I was just thinking of what a gift he gives me, and how I can't wait for the blessing of the animals, because I can't wait to gift others an experience of my chocolate lab. So I just wanted to offer that too.
Well, you could
So you have my mother and my chocolate lab.
So, well, why don't you bring him in? Is it him or her?
It's a him.
Him. Bring him in. Bring him in next week, and we can have a look at your
Okay, I
chocolate
love
lab.
that. He has a girl's name, but he's a boy. It's Akasha, but it means spiritual blessing.
All right.
So, but I call him Kashi, like the
It's like
cereal.
It's like a boy named Sue. Yes.
Yes,
exactly.
a boy named Sue.
And Eric, and then I'm going to risk going to Julie over there, who's put her hand up. Yeah, Eric, thank you.
Thank you for mentioning Werner Herzog, who happens to be my favorite documentary filmmaker. And last year I went on a big binge watch of Herzog. I've watched 25 different documentaries that he made, and read his book, which I recommend to anyone who's interested in this pursuit of ecstatic truth, which is Every Man for Himself and God Against All, which could be perhaps the best name for a memoir I've ever heard of. But his pursuit of ecstatic truth, you can see it in his films Fitzcarraldo and Aguirre, perhaps most clearly. It comes across in a way that goes beyond words. And he is be able to construct a situation that goes so far beyond our understanding that for me, I would liken it to a kind of spiritual experience, because it takes me somewhere I didn't expect to go, and yet there I am.
Yeah. When he was finishing his talk, he said, remember one thing, always cheat. That's what he said. It was really funny. Okay, Julie, yeah.
First, don't worry, I'm not going to critique you. What you said was beautiful. And second, I'm sorry if I'm a little shaky. It's a lot easier for me to talk to my students than a group of adults. But I just wanted to share something that actually I talked about with my art history class this past week.
Yeah.
Since Van Gogh is featured in here and you talked about him. There's an episode of Doctor Who where the doctor, it's like a science fiction show. The doctor he travels through time, and he brings Van Gogh to the d'Orsay in Paris, this famous museum of Impressionists. And he shows Van Gogh that his work is there among all the best Impressionists of the history, of art. And they bump into this guide, and he asks the guide, where do you think Van Gogh ranks in the history of art? And the guide says, I think not only is he one of the most important artists of all time, but one of the most important humans of all time. And Van Gogh's just like, he has his back turned, but he's crying, and he can't believe it, because as we know, he died thinking that he was a failure, that only really his brother and a handful of people he knew appreciated his work. And now, obviously, he's just one of the most important, famous, beautiful artists of all time. And I think he says this about Van Gogh because, he was ahead of his time. And if you look at his work here, the guy says anyone who is in pain can write about what they're going through, or artists can express their pain. But what Van Gogh did was he translated his pain into beauty, and he calls it ecstatic beauty. So I don't know, I wanted to share that because I think it's just a really touching thing to think about how Van Gogh kept going. He kept painting even though people didn't see what he saw, right? His truth. Like, he still expressed himself even though no one really believed in him. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's just a beautiful thought to think that hopefully somewhere out there Van Gogh knows how everyone appreciates his work so much. His truth and his beauty.
He said that not only was he the greatest artist, he was also
one of the greatest humans of all time.
Humans of all time.
Because of the way that he was able to
Yeah.
translate his pain into ecstatic beauty.
Well, Julie, I so appreciate you saying that. Thank you
Yeah,
so
sorry,
much.
Mike.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Patrick.
On the topic of being an artist and creating and bringing so-called beauty and things into the world, I want to elaborate on what you said about Van Gogh, is that anyone who chooses to do that, it takes a lot of courage. And hats off to anybody who makes that decision, that spontaneous choice to create. And as an artist, the biggest thing that I come up against is leaving the audience at the studio door and just having the courage to let that transmission come through unabashedly. And something that you said in the beginning, Heather, about may we not let fear waste our hearts. Being creative and being an artist is an incredible testament of that. And sometimes I have a lot more courage and confidence just in my entry-level job than I do as an artist. But when I do make that choice, it's like 100 times more rewarding to create.
Patrick, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Great, finally. You're just here.
Oh.
I don't know your name, so perhaps you say your name. Sorry?
Nadia.
Did you say that?
My name is Nadia.
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 Thank you.
I actually, when I opened this, I don't know how to call this, paper, brochure. When I opened this brochure, I was surprised about seeing here Van Gogh. I was in his museum a couple years ago, and I was surprised by how many pain was in that museum, and especially in his work. No matter how beautiful that person was, and like he's very talented for sure, but I right now, when I open this brochure, I cannot see beauty here because everything what I felt in that museum was just a pain. When I left that museum after 3 hours, I spent around 2 hours under the tree just crying.
Yes.
Because it was so powerful and so sad. Because that person was not just like going through pain, whatever it's inner, emotional, mental, whatever, physical. He was super depressed person, and he was using a lot of drugs as well.
Yes.
So, and I just want to ask you a question: what beautiful here you see? Because that's a kind of answer what I'm looking right now for.
Right. Yeah. So your question is really just take that. What is beautiful in this? And I think I'm so pleased you asked that question because for me, what is beautiful is the truthfulness of it.
But there is a lot of pain in this.
Yes, and I think sometimes there is pain in beauty as well. I think, there's beauty can be expressed not only through something which is not painful, but I think sometimes beauty can include pain as well. And I think, we've been talking recently about the fact that someone mentioned the idea that, joy is the mother of all emotions, and unless all her children are there, she will not visit the home. And to some extent, I think it's the same with beauty, in that there is something in beauty that includes everything, that includes both pain, and it's inexpressible in a certain way, but to me, the truthfulness is what's beautiful. Does anybody else want to talk about that as well? Yes, Tom, and then we'll close, because otherwise I'll run over.
I've been, probably for decades, fascinated by the concept of creating what I call constructed realities versus the external intrinsic reality that, say, nature has, and that we have subjectively created our own. Everybody in here, everybody in the world creates their own subjective constructed reality. And it occurred to me in listening to you that the power of that is poignant because it's so constructed in the pain of truth and the joy of truth. And that I don't know why I never thought of it, because I am creative, I am innovative, but yet I've been at the effect sometimes of creating the poignancy in the negative, or the seeing and being at the effect of all the pain and the hurts and whatnot, instead of transforming it into and experience without necessarily being stuck in the negative. And in just listening, it gives me a little bit more choice and a little bit more empowerment. So it's really helpful to take my own thoughts around constructed reality and twist it into what can I do with that, not to be at the effect of it, but at the cause of profound choice, which I always embrace in option creation intellectually, but not necessarily behaviorally.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's great. I mean, what we say here is we try to live our lives more skillfully by working together, and you've just given us a way of doing that with this subject matter, so thank you for that.